Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode of AI Buzz. My name is Nick, coming at you with some more machine learning and artificial intelligence stories. What is going on in this field? I'll tell you. What are we going to talk about? Self-driving delivery robots, Yandex, another release from Google about Teachable Machine 2.0, how distillers can now make gin. Talk lastly about the Steppingstone Principle. All that and more on this episode of AI Buzz. First up, Amazon is looking to expand delivery in the air with drones. Other companies looking to speed up the delivery process to get products to consumers faster. This one's about a company that's attempting this in a rather unconventional manner. A company called Yandex is working on creating these small-wheeled robots that are going to be capable of delivering packages on the sidewalks. They have 6 wheels, and in this story by Engadget that I'm covering, they're going to be walking at roughly a human's walking speed, so no one needs to worry about these things crashing into them. Excuse me. Cameras on top of the robots will be able to detect people, cars, pets, other things. Hopefully we'll avoid collisions. And the company behind these bots, it's called Yandex. They're essentially a search engine, except over in Russia. They look a lot like Google. So they definitely have a lot of resources to be throwing at creating this type of robot for food delivery. So they're, in addition to being a search engine giant over there, they have these delivery companies as well. They have a whole host of, they have this whole host of companies that are in addition to their search engine. So they can just throw all these resources at them, and they want to use these robots for what they call last mile delivery. And essentially what that is once a package goes from the warehouse to like a local delivery post office type of thing, the last leg of the journey is extremely inefficient because you have to send a delivery vehicle out to each home individually. So these things zooming around on the sidewalks will definitely help package couriers to deliver. Let me show you a video of how these things work. So Yandex, be on the lookout for these things, possibly coming over to the United States. You're going to see these things zooming around. Going to be cool. Next up, we have Teachable Machine 2.0 from Google. Go to teachablemachine.withgoogle.com. Machine learning is able to be taught pretty much anything by feeding it data. And models can learn behaviors, speech, motor movements. In 2017, Google released the first version of Teachable Machine, and it allowed users to create wild things kind of like this. And now they're releasing the second version of it. And one of the main things that is different is you can now use audio, and you can also deploy it, they say right here, to your sites and your apps. Also, no coding is required in this version either. It is really, really fascinating what you can do with it. It's kind of so since there's no coding, it's kind of a user interface type of model. You can kind of drag and drop, like say, images if you want to classify between a puppy and a dog. Drag it into the GUI, and then train model, and then export. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. I should do infomercials. But it's really cool. Check it out. I'm going to show a brief snippet of a video from Google showing how the technology can be used.
People are training computers and creating machine learning models to explore all kinds of new ideas. New ways to interact.
Yes.
To understand the world. To play and experiment.
There's some really good documentation on how you can use it, and there's these awesome tutorials down here show how you can use each of the different features. So this one's my favorite, the banana meter. You can tell if a banana is ripe or not. Check this one out. And then there's also a kind of a community section too, where you can kind of see things that other people have made. And once you train one of these models, you're able to deploy it. So anything that runs any of these languages, they especially focus on TensorFlow.js. Anything that can run this will also work with this with Teachable Machine. So definitely check it out. No coding required. Pretty cool stuff. Next up, artificial intelligence is finding its way into all kinds of applications. It's beginning to create and identify the tastes and smells that we like best. The future may very well involve AI in the food engineering phase, creating delicious drink and food. Now, there's a new player in the distillery business. It's called Ginette. This is Ginette. Ginette, as you can tell, does not exactly look like a human. It's actually an artificial intelligence algorithm capable of analyzing thousands of different factors, such as ingredients in existing gin recipes, to try and create the perfect gin. So 2 companies worked together out of Sweden, Tiny Giant and Rewrite Digital, to create Ginette, and they were successful. They were able to create an AI-generated gin that is made up of some pretty wild ingredients, such as orange zest, gooseberries, coriander seeds, other exotic spices to give it a very unique, delicious flavor. And what's really unique about this is not only do they use it to train on different gin names, gin recipes, gin ingredients, they used AI to actually generate the marketing materials for this product. So all their social media communications, their label, it's all AI generated. And lastly, I thought that the name of this product was noteworthy. It's called Monker's Garkle. Yeah, so that's an AI-generated name, and that is questionable. The gin sounds pretty nice. It's got some good ingredients, some pretty wild, like marigold and angelica root. But Monker's Garkle, you might want to check some of the settings on that neural network that they used. But still, regardless, cool stuff, and really cool that they're using AI for the full stack of, essentially creating this gin and then bringing it to market. Last up, this is an awesome story. It's not so much a breaking story because this type of thing has actually been around for a while, but I read this article from Quanta magazine, and so artificial intelligence is based on huge quantities of data, corresponding models that are going to process all that data and extract the useful information out of it. And patterns are learned about that data in a way that suits them for a particular objective. So, for example, in terms of identifying cats versus dogs, you'd use a convolutional neural network that'll extract out the patterns that allow it to make the correct classification, and you're trying to minimize a objective. Try to make it classify correctly. And each time it moves more in the direction of classifying something correctly, it gets rewarded. And that parameter, that feature that it's found that leads to a more correct classification gets amplified, it gets a better weight. So this is kind of how traditional machine learning has functioned. And you have these no pun intended, functions that you're trying to minimize, you're telling it it's objective. Research from a University Central Florida team led by, let me find his picture, this guy right here, registered awesome dude, Kenneth Stanley. So he's a scientist at UCF, and now he's a scientist at Uber AI. He is responsible for a principle that really has turned machine learning on its head. So instead of programming AI with an objective, he tried something totally new. He came up with the Steppingstone Principle. And this is best explained by an experiment that they did detailed here. So they had two sets of robots and put them in a maze. One set, they programmed it with the objective of finding the exit. And they measured how well it performed by the final ending position of the robot to the exit. So if it found the exit, presumably it'd be 0. If it got stuck in a rut, stuck in a dead end, it'd be whatever the distance is of that final position to the exit. And it's trying to minimize that distance, and that was how the first set of robots is programmed. And they note here, this approach only worked 3 out of 40 times. So that's about 7% of the time this approach worked, which is really terrible. And what happened is these robots are getting stuck in a local minimum. It thinks it completely minimized its objective as much as it can, and it's not seeing that there's a much better minimum outside of the rut that it got stuck in. And this new principle that he calls the Steppingstone Principle, it searches for novelty. So it's called Novelty Search. And what this is doing is it's not looking at an objective. It's not even looking at the exit at all. What it does is it finds approaches and finds paths that are as different from other paths as possible. So it's shooting out these feelers in all of these different directions. And that's called Novelty Search. And it's trying the most wild approaches that it can. And when they used this, it succeeded 39 times, which is about 97% of the time. So it just stumbled upon the exit. And this is amazing. It's not even programmed with that objective, and it found the exit. So this is something that I think will really get used a ton and be responsible for some amazing discoveries, because artificial general intelligence is going to require something fresh like this. And letting AI and models kind of explore on their own to find new things seems to be it's literally a novel approach. And it's fascinating. I mean, the results speak for themselves. 39 out of 40 times compared to 3. This is some very noteworthy stuff. Can't wait to see how this gets applied in the future to a wide range of problems. And yeah, really cool article. You should absolutely please check out this article. Quantum Magazine, Computers Evolve a New Path Toward Human Intelligence, written by Mr. Matthew Hudson. Impeccable work, very well written, and it's really elucidated a cool concept to me. That's about it on this episode of AI Buzz. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Brief recap of what we talked about. Talked about self-driving cars on sidewalks. Watch out. Teachable Machine 2.0 from Google. You can now deploy it to your web app. Ginette is a master distiller and can create not only gin, but marketing materials too. And Steppingstone Principle, where things can be programmed without an objective and perform better. Cool stuff. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of AI Buzz. My name is Nick. I'll be back very, very soon with a new episode and talk more about machine learning and artificial intelligence. Have a great day. Bye.